listeners. Here on Hey Look at My Thing, we know you tune in to hear intelligent banter and deep social commentary on some of the greatest media of our time. And today is not one of those days. On this episode, we will be diving headfirst into the shallow end of. I'm Aaron Irons, and I'm joined today by Keegan Reynolds and Rachel Bennett. And Keegan, why don't you tell me what you know about?
Well, besides that, it's a noise that will never leave me. Now, that would be about it. Just existential dread, and that's all.
Hashtag 2020.
Rachel?
Yeah. What do I know about this? So you previewed this a little bit and said that there were some sassy, wonderful drag queens. I am expecting something that is pretty lighthearted and humorous based on the fact that they named their show. She said uncertain about the type of media she was diving into after a very serious noise. That's pretty much it. That's
it's
everything I
long
have.
form, like scientific and medical journal articles.
Yeah, actually.
Yes. I mean, honestly, that's what Aaron is supposed to be bringing to the show, but like drag queens is pretty much a close second.
Yeah. So yes, Rachel, you're on the mark. There's two drag queens. One is Trixie Mattel, and the other is Katya Zamolodchikova. And so they're both different and interesting people, and they met on season 7 of RuPaul's Drag Race. So if you are familiar with that show, it kind of leads into this one. Trixie Mattel kind of models her drag after Barbie dolls. And you'll get a taste of that, I'm sure, when you see her, and also like if she gets into any bit of her obsessions with them, you'll understand where that's coming from.
I watched her play Dead by Daylight on the Polygon channel, and she is just an absolute delight.
So that's wonderful, because I have an episode about gaming coming up, and she plays Dead by Daylight on that episode. So you're going to see a little bit of a repeat there.
Perfect.
Fun.
Yes. It was very cool. It was like a very fun experience. And it seems like that was a popular episode. Like it seems like she has a pretty big following, which makes sense. Like RuPaul's Drag Race is pretty huge.
Yeah. I identify with Trixie in that, like, she's this gamer, and just she kind of talks about herself when she presents herself as a boy. You know, she just has this like kind of low self-esteem, like, I'm not too attractive. But then when she gets up in drag, then she's like, ooh, I'm pretty. And like, I really like that about her.
That's sweet. So what is the medium that they're using here? Is it like a YouTube, or is it like on Netflix? What's up with that?
Yep, we're going to be watching this on YouTube. All the episodes can be found on there. So it's pretty accessible, but let me just say heavily censored, because drag queens have dirty mouths, and that's kind of part of their humor, and I love that about them. But it can be very hard to approach if you're not ready for that.
Do they have like a Patreon for like uncensored versions or anything like that?
I believe that is true. I have not looked into that myself, but I have seen like ways of getting to that. And I mean, it's not like you don't know what they say. So aside from getting rid of the bleep itself, like the joke is still there. So
okay.
Aaron, I cannot believe you would bring swearing into my good Christian home. I have tiny, delicate virgin ears. I've never heard these kind of school bus words. I'm not sure. I'm very nervous now.
Rachel, I must apologize in advance, and I'm very sorry that we're going to take you to places you've never been before. But I think it'll be an experience, and if you don't like it, we'll keep an emergency stop button ready at all times. You can exit whenever you want, but I just want you to, try for me, Rachel, please.
Thank you so much.
So,
I feel very safe, and maybe it will add to my vocabulary. I can learn some new nice words in addition to
Yeah,
these swear words that I've definitely never heard and or used before in my entire life.
absolutely.
Mhm.
it's gonna be that kind of episode. Gotcha.
So the journey I'm going to take you on as we go through this show, they're short episodes, so covering an hour's worth of material is easy to do in by accumulating several episodes. We're going to start with episode 1, just so you can kind of see where they kicked off, and then we're going to take a journey through self-esteem.
Ooh.
That's a new concept for us.
Yeah, very much so. We're going to journey through gaming, which I alluded to before. Because I wanted to play to Keegan's strengths, I decided to take a trip through the 90s so he can relive his glory days.
Yeah, 100% no on that one.
And finally, we're going to take a trip to a place that we can all relate to, porn.
Great.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
So yeah, I think that's enough of an introduction for this, because I think we're going to need as much time to absorb what we all saw. And yeah, so let's jump into it, and I will see you guys on the other side.
Sounds
Bye.
great. Hey friends, back again for another ad break message. This week is certainly one of our weirder episodes, but don't worry, I have still found a place for you to give your money if this is something that you're passionate about. So you guys might have heard, but we've sort of had this thing going on that's like this disease thing, and everybody is like shutting things. It's the pandemic. It's coronavirus. One of the groups of people, rather, that has really affected are entertainers, like the drag queens that we saw in this very episode. And generally, according to the Williams School at UCLA School of Law, LGBTQ communities are already hungrier than nearly any other demographic group. But don't worry, as always, the queens are here to help. You can go to feedthequeens.com to donate money specifically to out-of-work drag performers. Entertainment, nightlife, the sort of venues where people who are doing drag can get work aren't there right now, and even in places where they're coming back, that's coming back really slowly, and it's been really tenuous, and they're open and shut and open and shut, and that kind of food insecurity can really prey on mental health and can really prey on physical health. So if you have a little bit of extra this week, again, that is feedthequeens.com. It's rad. It's started by Shangela, who was a performer on RuPaul's Drag Race, which we talk about in this episode as well. So if you've got a little bit extra this week, that's where I'd recommend you send your money. Otherwise, know that we still love you, we care, we're here, and we're glad that you're joining us this week. We'll catch you next time.
So we have just witnessed. Tell me, Rachel, what was your first impressions of this show?
Okay. Yeah. So my first impressions, my first impressions of this show are that they are adorable. They're super cute, like together, and the way that they interact, it seems like they're like really good friends, and they're comfortable just kind of like giving each other shit and like ribbing each other, which is very cute. I again was like vaguely, passingly familiar with Trixie, because I had seen her on that Polygon show. I was not familiar at all with Katya. And you guys were still on the line when I was like, oh my God, she's gorgeous. She's got this, like, I think that like Trixie sticks to an aesthetic pretty closely. You kind of described it, Aaron, as that like Barbie doll type look, which I think she really sticks to. But like Katya had a couple of looks that were like cool ass gypsy caravan witch, and then she had some that were like German SS spy. Like it was just you really kind of ran the gamut in a way that I thought was really interesting, and I loved the way that she she kind of played with that and played with fashion. But they were like super cute and friendly together and clearly pretty open with each other. And I liked that they like pulled people off screen in, like their I don't know, like producer or cameraman or whatever who was standing off. They'd like talk to them as well. Yeah, it was really fun. This was a really fun show.
All right, Keegan, what about you?
I really enjoyed it. I thought, yeah, they obviously are able to have fun with each other. Like it's obvious they're very comfortable with each other and they have a really good rapport. I love the graphics and the editing; those were very well done and really cool and cute. I think that I really enjoy the unscriptedness of it. You know, it's obvious that they're just, you know, jumping from topic to topic. You know, maybe they had a topic, but they're just jumping from thing to thing. And if they thought of something funny, they were going to run with it. I thought they were very good, like improv, like workers. They could, you know, just come up with really funny anecdotes pretty easily. It's obvious that they were, at least as these personas, very comfortable, you know, being entertaining.
Right. Yeah, they're definitely both pretty witty, and I have to admit, like, the editing is some of the best part of the show, just because it takes whatever they say and takes it to that
Makes it
obnoxious.
crisp.
Yeah, but it takes it to like an obnoxious next level of just like they're over the top to begin with, and they're just like, okay, let's put them on an island, false modesty island, while they're talking, and you know, that sort of deal.
Well, and it feels very much like a, I don't know, it has like a corniness to it where it feels like a high school project. That
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
legitimately, that is like really endearing and speaks to a like, we just threw this shit together because whatever and fuck you, which seems to be like
Yeah.
most of their kind of vibe, and it just works really, really well.
Yeah, it's like elevated version of that. You know, it's like you take the high school project and you give it, you know, some good direction, some good editing and good performers, and it can be elevated to something that's really, really entertaining.
Yeah, for sure.
So when did you start watching this?
I would say it was probably like 2 years ago that I ever saw it for the first time. And it was somebody who was like really into drag, and I wasn't really so much. Like I've been around drag for quite a while, but it's been one of those like distantly, like I've been to shows, I enjoy them, but I've never been like, oh my god, I can't wait to go see this person here, or I want to go to drag con, or you know, that type of thing. And honestly, I never even saw RuPaul's Drag Race at all until like a month ago. So
You're like a casual fan of the drag scene.
right. I would say that, yeah, I'm aware of it. Like you can't miss it. You know, especially
Right.
especially in the
make
gay
sure.
community. Yeah. So like I've been aware of it, and it's just been more recently that I have really dipped a toe into this and then the drag race itself, and just kind of been like embracing it as, I love this. Let's just put my head fully in this bitch and get acclimated.
Oof. Yikes.
I liked they had some, like they had their who done bad.
My bad.
Like I noticed they had, in the 5 or 6 episodes we watched, they mentioned like Des Moines and Albuquerque multiple times. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
a bit they do. I was like, that's very specific.
Yeah, when they talk about backwoods, oaky smoky poor kind of things, Des Moines comes up a lot. So you can thank.
Hey man, you know, as people from Iowa, you know, there are in the cities lots of McDonald's. So I mean, we're not from the dirt poor place in, I believe he said Wisconsin he's from. I assume
Yes.
like some cheese farm or something. Don't at me. But yeah, I don't know.
Keegan, I do have to at you. Cheese doesn't. You don't farm cheese, my dude. It's not like, yes, the cheese bush looks excellent this year. It will be a good harvest. And then they like,
listen. I know it's
you realize that comes from
it's a dairy farm. Yeah, it's a dairy farm is the proper name, right. But like they make cheese and they're a farm. It's a fucking cheese farm.
Well, they don't just make, I don't think they make the cheese. The cheese comes other places. It's a process. Okay, never mind. Just everybody, if you need to at Keegan,
it's the important part.
I highly encourage it. It's very important that you find Keegan on Twitter and ruin his life with things about dairy farms. Please.
Yeah, and you can find us at HLAMT podcast.
Yep, go there. That one is totally run by Keegan. So anything you tweet at that about dairy farms, he will see and it will crush his soul. And you'll know that you've done right by the great state of Wisconsin.
Now, this did bring up another thing. When I was trying to figure out which one of us would be described as evil but tender, and I guess it's Rachel.
Yeah. Yep, turns out it's me. Who knew?
My ideal boyfriend.
Evil but tender. I really actually appreciated how much they talked about like their weird taste in partners, because I feel like it's something that there's a lot of pressure on, right? Like especially when you're younger. Like I don't give a shit now, but like especially when you're younger, to be like, oh, look at this like squeaky clean dude, isn't he hot? And I don't. My answer has always been like, nah.
Yeah.
Like I don't.
Nah.
I get it. Like I get where people are coming from, but I've never been like, oh my God, Chris Evans, he's so hot. I'm like, oh my God, why is he like that? Like I'm glad that he is able to make money off of his very symmetrical face, but it makes me extremely uncomfortable. So I'm really glad that they talked about like bad teeth, no sense of humor, totally my type. Like it's kind of affirming to hear people be like very open with the fact that they are not looking for perfection, which is really nice.
Right.
Looking at you, Mark.
Oh God!
Wow!
There's a call out.
Wow!
No. Mark has a fine sense of humor
And a symmetrical face.
And a relatively well, who would know? He has a great big bushy beard. It's a secret under there. Nobody remembers. It's been there for a long time. Nobody knows what his face looks like under there. It could have changed. I don't know. It could be anything. It's a complete mystery.
So, Aaron, like, how many episodes have you watched? I noticed there was like almost like 150 episodes or something like that. How many have you watched?
I've seen all 130 whatever.
Oh my God!
There are.
How often does it come out?
I don't really know, honestly, because I'd never really watched them as they come out. I binge watched, and so I would say probably weekly when they're trying or doing stuff, but I can't say.
It seems like it's pretty modern, because I think we were like in various different spots and it was like 2019. They mentioned that at one point. So I have to assume it, like, they come out fairly regularly, not once a month, that's for sure.
Yeah, let me think about the timeline. I think they were on Drag Race in 2015 or so, and this would have been like a year later. Don't quote me on this exactly, but we're close.
Yeah.
And then they've done this for like 4 years. So yeah, it's probably like
every 2 weeks, maybe.
Yeah, but they do it in seasons, so I think that's like it's on or off. So it's probably weekly, but like it's not all year.
Sure, that makes sense.
As the gamers among us, you two video gamers, what did you think of their video game choices and their video game prowess?
First of all, I was delighted to see Katamari Damacy, which we have talked about previously on this show. Watching them roll a big thing of garbage, and Katya was like, no, I hate this. It's very much a fair response to that game, which can feel like if you're looking for a game that has purpose and that like will spell out its story for you, it ain't that. Like it's very much an emergent narrative that you kind of have to work at to get. So that delighted me to see that.
Yeah, and I think like I really identify with Trixie in a lot of ways, and just the fact that she's a really competent gamer, you can tell. At least she knows she knows her way around the controller. It's not awkward, and while her Dead by Daylight may have not been the best performance, it still showed that she knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
Did you recognize the friends?
What was that?
Did you recognize the two friends they brought over to help them?
Not specifically, but they're my homeboys. They're gamers.
I think that it's really interesting that you identified with Trixie because she knew what she was doing. Because I super identified with Katya, who got like 15 minutes into a game and was like, fuck this, I hate this. And then like spent a bunch of time on the like hard game or whatever, right? When she was playing Dead by Daylight, just like watching her play and cheering her on and like providing color commentary, which is such like an integral part of the gaming experience for me and always has been. Like my roommates in college were way more competent as gamers than I was. And I was perfectly happy to like sit on the couch and take in the narrative and be completely hands off and let them do their thing. Like my brother would do that where he'd like spend 6 hours playing Skyrim and I'd be like, yo, you just got yote into the air by a troll. That's hysterical. Mark and I do that all the time, right? Where he'll get into it. I've seen like basically all of the PS4 Spider-Man release because I like sat on the couch and watched him play it. And I have not even pressed a button in that game, but it brought me a lot of joy. And I would make comments that pissed him off the whole time about Spider-Man's shiny, perfectly formed ass.
But it is, so.
It is, yeah. He's got you could bounce a quarter off that bad boy. But that was like a huge part and is a huge part of gaming to me. So I was delighted when she moved from the like being hands-on to being like, you know what, I'm just gonna like sit back and let you do your thing, and I'll be here and like cheer you on and enjoy this from afar because that's a special place in my heart.
Interesting, because me and Callie played all of the Batman games that have come out. And ours, like we would take turns playing. I would play maybe like a little bit more, but it was instead of kind of watching based, it was definitely goal based. Like we would have a checklist of the stuff we wanted to get done on the game. And like one of us would be looking up on our phones, like where to go or how to do this. And then what's the next thing we want to do? We are very like intent oriented. There was no faffing around.
The fact that you play games like you're running a small business makes me want to curl up in a hole and die. It's like you talking about the way that the fucking anal retentive type A shit way that you play Animal Crossing, a game that is meant to just be so zen and good, like gotta catch them all. Like this is not Pokemon, my dude. You can let some of the fish go.
Man.
It's okay. Now people are gonna at me. Yeah. Same place on Twitter. Just send all that hate to Keegan. He'll pass it right on. I realize I play Animal Crossing. It's fine.
We're completionists. We know we are, and like we're completionists until we're not, and then we're done with it. Like we have sucked all of the marrow out of the game, and we are ready for the next one.
You recognize that that's objectively worse, right? To be like, oh, I'm a completionist, except I didn't do these 6 things because I got bored. Like that is objectively worse than just leaning into the fact
I enjoy it. I enjoy ticking off those boxes. And then when I'm not enjoying ticking off those boxes anymore, I put it away because if I'm not enjoying it, why am I still doing it?
Keegan's an asshole because he's a completionist. There, that segment, the video game segment, is done. I want to talk about the self-esteem episode more than I want anything else in my life, aside from my heat to be on.
All right, let's do it.
So I loved the quote, and I think maybe it was Katya who said it. I love the quote where she was like, whatever you tell yourself about yourself is kind of a lie, so you might as well construct a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I start my year off every year with my kids by going on this like long rambly diatribe about self-fulfilling prophecy, because there's like all of this really fascinating research about it, right? Where they like do these studies, and people who like don't make any changes to their diet or exercise or whatever, but tell themselves like, yeah, I'm getting skinnier, like I'm starting to look good, I'm really slimming down, do slim down compared to a control group who like also doesn't make any changes, right? Like they found these things where like your brain is a total wet witchcraft machine, and you can bullshit it into all kinds of shit that it will make into a reality. So like the same thing is true if you tell yourself over again, like, oh, I suck at this. I suck at this. I'm the worst at this. I suck at this. I'm the worst at this. And I think it is such a fucking trap. And I fall into it so goddamn much, especially with anything creative at all. And part of the reason I tell my kids is so that they can hold me accountable while I hold them accountable, so we can all be better together about not talking about ourselves like we're garbage. But I really loved that quote. Like, if it's gonna be a little bit of a lie, it might as well be a nice one. Like, you should say nice things about yourself because it's not gonna be true either way. So whatever, fuck it.
Yeah, I think what they bring to the table, I mean, they're just like lowbrow, uh, shock factor humor is a big part of what they do. But weirdly, they have some very thoughtful insights as well
Hmm.
that they sprinkle in.
Yeah, like I have that quote, and I have the one about like doing a steamable axe is like the way to gain self-esteem, because like that's a great quote. But I also have quotes down here that are like, when people want to do you, are you like, what? That's not my business, I guess. Like, no. And the one who I just wrote down rancid cave slut because it's a really good combination of words. It'd be a great name for a metal band if anyone's looking for one. So like the juxtaposition of these like actually pretty deep, like pretty meaningful ideas against like rancid cave slut is a pretty delightful balance.
I don't know. It's kind of interesting that people in our overall age group, like late 20s to like late 30s, there's a sort of acceptable personality to have where you believe all of your friends and loved ones are doing great, but you yourself are trash.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I I know that's kind of a millennial thing, and you see it all over the
Yeah.
internet. I don't really. How do you say this without sounding like a total?
It's like, I'm awesome, obviously.
I don't identify with that in the way of like. I feel like very middle of the pack. Like,
Mm.
and when it comes to like where I started to where I am, I probably actually am a very short jump, because I feel like I started off in a very good place and I achieved mediocrity. So, there's that.
Mission accomplished.
And that's good enough for me.
I do think
Man,
that
we
you're
got low expectations in this show.
I do think that you're right, Keegan, that there's like this sort of pervasive thing where people will shit talk themselves. And I don't see it as much in like older people, and I don't know if it's because they finally learned how to be comfortable with themselves, or because they weren't as like bullied into submission by the media and their friends, or I really don't know. But I see it a lot in like my kids too, who are the generation behind us. In like a lot of people referring to themselves as trash, or like identifying with that as a descriptor of themselves in like a joking way.
Hmm.
I don't know that
Defense
that's like,
mechanism almost way.
yeah, I don't know that that's like a healthy or good joke to make,
Mm-mm.
but I'm not gonna say I've never done it because I definitely do. Like, it's also not, I don't think, an admirable quality to like think of yourself that way, right? Like that's not something where I'm like, oh man, I shit talk myself all the time and that's one of my greatest features. Like, no, this is a thing that is like not great, and I realize it's not great, but it's become so like habitual and ingrained. And like the reality of the situation is it's funny, right? Because people empathize with that in their own like insecurity, and if you're able to have that like little bit of vulnerability and talk about your insecurity in like a way that is offhanded, people kind of empathize with that a little bit, so it like creates connection and is funny and does all these things, but it's not good for me either. Like that's not a good brain space to be in. So I think that that's kind of a complex one. And even as they're saying like my self-esteem is great, like I'm on top of things, or like Katya saying like I'm less on top of things, like I don't always feel amazing, they still fall into that trap, right? They still call themselves trash. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that self-depreciation trap is really easy to fall into.
yeah, for sure. It's a difficult thing to avoid, even when we don't really feel like it's true. Like, if I take an objective look at myself, or as objective as I can be, I don't really actually think I'm trash. Like, there's things that I'm not great at, and there's things that I'd like to be better at, and there's things that I'm working on to improve, and things that I know I should work on to improve and don't, and things that I don't even know where to start with, right? But like realistically, for the most part, I'm a mostly put together, almost 30-year-old. In fact,
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
comparatively
yeah,
for being an almost 30-year-old, I'm probably pretty put together in a way that
yeah. You're ahead
is
of
a
the curve, man.
combination of like mostly luck and a little bit of work. um, but like it, even despite that, even despite that I can say that, it doesn't stop me from being like, and also I'm a garbage goblin.
You brought something to the forefront that I wanted to discuss, and that is like there is this sense that I get from people where all of their accomplishments they think are due to their own skill and ability, and yet when you think about other people's accomplishments, you attribute it more to luck and being in the right place at the right time. I
Mm,
think we all need to acknowledge that, you know, just as much as skill is involved, we're all pretty lucky to have the success that we have and things that, brought us to where we are. Um, it's a concept of grace. And like, I have a lot of good influences in my life. I have a lot of, means that I was born into. There's a lot of things that I'm lucky to have that allowed me to start way ahead of the starting line, essentially.
right.
And to get to where I am today, it's like, well, sure, it's an accomplishment. I have a degree, I have a professional job, but like if somebody else got the exact same thing as I did, I think they probably would have worked a lot harder to get there. And I don't know if I deserve as much recognition as they do.
Yeah, it's hard not to feel like, wow, I just got like extremely like there's some flukes that like got me to where I am. And I struggle with that a lot, because like even my going to college at all was basically like a lucky fluke, right? Like I waited way too long because I was scared of rejection, because hey, mental illness, what up? As
Mhm.
far as like submitting college applications. And so I was just really lucky that the particular college that I really wanted to go to, and I did not know this, accepted really late applications. So I was still able to apply. And I was really lucky that my parents were able to scrape enough money together for me to go, and that I got the scholarships that I got because my grades were decent, but not amazing. Like it just, it feels every time like, oh, this is just luck. Like I didn't actually work that hard, and I probably should have worked a lot harder, and it's just sort of things falling together where they end up led me to where I am, in like good and bad places. It all feels sort of like scattered and bizarro.
I mean, it's interesting because nowadays you can see a lot of anecdotal evidence of people that had less than you and have done better, and
Mhm.
it's easy to let those like skew your version or your vision of your own self. It's like those are probably outliers, but you see them, you see the outliers more than you see the median, the average. So you just assume that, man, people are doing great and they started with nothing. I must be lazy.
Right, yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, that's exactly what we were saying, right? Is like it is about that. It is about me like looking at people who came from similar circumstances and being like, ah, fuck, like they really got their shit together, and here I am doing average shit in an average place with an average life. But you know what? It's pretty rad, actually. Like,
Yeah. I think it's important that we're grateful for what we have.
Hmm.
And like I don't really have complaints, even though I'm sure there are ways I could be more successful. I could be better at what I do. So I don't know. I think we all just need to sit down and say, you know what? Count your blessings. We have good lives.
we do have good lives. You know what? We are average people, and that's okay. We're
Yeah,
having a good time with it.
we're doing just fine.
We're doing fine. We're doing
We're
fine.
doing fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, what about the 90s and porn? We gonna talk about those segments?
Wow, thank you. That was a really nice moment that we were all having together that was
Yep.
pretty affirming. So let's move to some less affirming things, the 90s
So,
and porn.
so I just want to say that I have never tried to use a slap bracelet on my erect penis.
I did
Neither
have
have
that
I.
as a question, actually. I am notoriously unfamiliar with just kind of the existence of male genitalia and like the way that it functions on a day-to-day basis and what it makes people do. So I did actually have that as a question. Keegan, care to share your slap bracelet re-penis situation here?
It wouldn't have the first time it came out, I was too young. Okay,
Yeah.
so it wouldn't have been around. It was around when I was in elementary school, and that was
Okay.
pre-erect penis.
Sure.
Um, and so it wasn't really in a formative time when I would have just for some reason had my stuff out. It would have
This
just been
looks like
laying
the
around the
right
room.
size for this. I don't know. I don't know what happens there.
So
So it definitely it definitely missed me, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody has a weird sexually formative experience at a young age where, like, I could see myself having done it and just thinking it's funny. And
It is funny.
It is
and it's not
funny.
like
Look, it's funny.
it's not like little boys can't get an erection and couldn't have done it. It just never would have occurred to me because I don't know. Maybe if I had been playing with it by myself, but I don't know. I missed the train on that. I'll have to wait till I find these in a thrift store. I'll let you know how it goes.
Okay, excellent. Well, I know what everyone's getting at the Christmas party this year.
Okay. I don't know. Like they were talking about other '90s stuff, like the bracelet, the sex bracelet things. As two people who were obviously way cooler than me during their formative years, did you guys have like sex bracelets?
So I was familiar with these like jelly bracelets, right? I actually I think that this was like coming back. It had like come back around in the middle of my unfortunate emo phase, which I think is an important
Ooh.
part of a Midwestern girl's life, the unfortunate emo
Hmm.
phase. Um and like those like black jelly bracelets were a part of it, but that like symbolism had kind of faded away at when they came back in originally. And then I think like kids were told by like older siblings or parents or uncles or whatever that this had been a thing. And so it started to come back. And I remember like very directly telling someone to fuck off because of this, right? Like I was wearing I was wearing like a black one of these bracelets and somebody like hooked a finger through it and broke it and was like, oh, and I was like, hey, fuck off. And that was like the end of that conversation. Like there was no, absolutely not. I thought it was the dumbest shit. Like, why? But what I recognize now as an adult, right, is that this is built on like a variety of subcultures who had to communicate in very low key ways that they were
Mm.
interested in specific people and in specific things, right? It's like how that's been co-opted for like college parties, where they'll have parties where a specific colored cup means a specific thing. Like, oh, everybody with a red cup is like single and looking to like get with somebody tonight, and everybody with a green cup is like committed to somebody else, right? So that you can really quickly see like what are people into. When they talked about like the bandana code, like that's part of that. Where like different colored bandanas would mean different colored things, especially regarding like sexuality, like who they were looking for as partners. Because if you're looking at a group of people who can't be like, hey, I'm gay, you're a dude, I'm into you, what up? Because that would like end up with them in prison or getting lynched or anything else in the unfortunate history of gay rights, then you need like a secret language to communicate. And so this was almost certainly like co-opted from that kind of language into something where it became something that like hetero people were doing too. And then the meaning kind of shifted and it like made it to teenagers. It's just a weird fucking thing. I hate the bracelet thing. I'm still salty about it. It's been a decade.
The only thing I can think of that, like, because you guys are much more worldly than I am about this kind of stuff, so I had no idea of like 90% of what Rachel was talking about. The only thing I can think of from my childhood was, I think if you had an earring on a specific ear, it meant something, but that's
Yeah,
it. And I didn't know which one it was.
that oh my god, Keegan, that was like a very urban legendy thing. I don't know if that was ever really, I mean, probably it was at one point true and then became well known enough that it couldn't be true anymore, right? Because that's
Right.
the like problem with
Yeah.
that kind of secret communication is once enough people find out about it, you can't use it anymore because then it isn't secret anymore.
It's not secret. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that's kind of a thing about gay culture, that it's constantly changing, or at least was really on the forefront of you. And it's kind of like drugs and prostitution. Like there's
Mhm.
so many words for a type of drug, and it's constantly changing just to stay ahead of law enforcement. It's kind of the
Mhm.
same thing with gay culture. It's like,
Yeah.
you come up with all these new terms for things that mean the exact same thing that everybody who's in the know keeps up with, and everybody else is just like, I have no idea what the last term was or what this one is, and whatever.
And like that's very much by intent, right? Because like it is a fair thing to want to like explore your sexuality and live in that and also not be outed to friends and family before you're ready, especially if you're like in a
Mhm.
situation where that could be really harmful to like your social and personal life and mental health. So it has to unfortunately continue to like have sort of coded language around it. Which is just something you don't have to worry about as much as a heterosexual.
Yeah, and as the
Yeah.
gay people say, quoting Trixie Mattel, straight people can't live with them, have to.
Yep. Yep, there it is. Take that, Keegan.
Yeah, you have to live with me. Ha 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 ha.
There is another episode where they qualify straight person versus hetero person, and
Mm,
they get into the weeds of like straight people are more like the kind of the Karens of society, where it's like
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
heteronormative, whereas
Yeah.
somebody who's heterosexual can still engage with gay culture and be accepting, and they're not. He says they're not straight, which you're still heterosexual, but you're not like straight culture. If
Right.
that's
Mhm.
if you get
Yeah,
that,
no, I get you.
yeah.
There's a distinction there.
Hmm.
All right, Aaron, I'm just gonna have you like run us through the porn section,
Oh well. Uh,
We loved it last
like
time when we
detailed
talked
lies. We're
about
waiting. Go ahead.
masturbation. That was a fan favorite when you talked about masturbation, so everybody is waiting for that again. If you could just,
Yeah, preferences.
honey, honey.
I thought that their like series of making sex noises was so fucking funny to me. I was just dying the whole time, especially because like that is not like, I don't know, the stereotypical like girl in porn sex noise is like in a register with a timbre that like a lot men probably can't hit, right? Where it's like getting up into that like flute range, that like female falsetto, which is very high. And so like listening to them make these like horrible goat noises just fucking killed me. It was so good.
That's why I love that episode. It's just so obnoxious.
Yes, very much so. They're like in full exactly the stereotype that I expect when you say drag queen. Like the exact personality that pops into my head is 100% them in that episode. With like
Yes.
the extra drama and also the comedy that comes with that, and like everything being too over the top, and them being so like delighted by their own dumb bullshit that they just like dissolve into giggles and can't for a while. Like it's extremely charming listening to these two drag queens talk about porn.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a fun episode.
All right. Well, I think we've covered all our bases, and we all need to head back to Okie Smoky Des Moines so that we can get back to our normal, boring lives.
I hear it so many places. Why is Des Moines bumfuck nowhere to so many? I mean, it is objectively bumfuck nowhere, but why to so many people?
I don't know.
I think it's the only. It's just like a
The city in
midwestern town. Yeah. Well, I don't even know if they know it's in Iowa. Honestly.
Yeah, no.
It's a midwestern town that they know isn't large. Like they can't say Chicago, you can't say Minneapolis. Those are actual fucking or St. Louis. Those are actual cities. So it's a city that is known, but is known for nothing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Keep it up, Des Moines. Keep up the hard
And I think
work.
I do think they actually went there for a performance once, and so it probably was memorable in that it wasn't memorable.
Jesus.
Oh boy.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me for it's been a pleasure.
Oh, by the way,
As-
you do that longer than they do, okay? They like cut it off pretty soon. Like you draw it out for some reason. I don't know why.
Keegan's personally offended. You've made him uncomfortable in his straightness.
I don't know if that's always the case. Maybe for
The episodes
episodes
you
I
showed
did.
us, I guess.
All right.
So who's
then.
next?
Great question. Good topic change. I really liked that. Yeah, who is next? I mean, I think in the order of things, it's me.
Yeah, should be Rachel.
And the next thing that we'll be talking about is straight up, I have no fucking clue. So it's going to be a big surprise, and you guys are going to be real excited for it. And it's probably gonna be I don't know. I have literally no idea.
That's
So there's
amazing.
that. That'll be good. We can look for that.
I can't even express how much I'm looking forward to that. So thank
Good.
you.
Get hyped,
Squee.
my dude. Get hyped.
All right.
All right. Bye, friends.
Bye.
Bye-bye.